Hello and welcome to this episode of the Gig Stories podcast. This is a first. Well, there's a couple of firsts in this episode. Alex and I go to a gig, the first gig that we've been to together since lockdown ended, and we'll talk about it in the intro and the outro. And the second first is that this is an intro to the intro. We recorded it on our phones, and the microphone that I had seemed to malfunction just at the right time. So you can hear Alex absolutely fine, but you can't really hear me so much, and there's no way of me dragging up the volume on mine without making Alex sound like a giant, and we all know that he's no giant. Anyway, I thought we'd just keep the intro as it is, because you really do get the feeling that we're at a gig, because we're at a gig, and we're actually doing it during a sound check as well, so that made the sound just that little bit more tricky. So yeah, apologies for that, but the outro you can hear pretty much fine because we recorded it in Alex's car on the drive home, but the intro you may not be able to hear me quite so much. Don't worry, the intro isn't very long, and the episode with the mighty James Atkin from EMF is absolutely fine. It hasn't been beset by any recording difficulties, so if you can persevere through the intro, then fantastic. But if you want to skip the intro, then, well, yeah, this is your podcast. You can do what the hell you want. In the episode, we also talk about a gig that EMF are going to be doing in the north of England, and we thought, well, it was at that point embargoed, we couldn't tell anyone about it, but since we recorded it last Saturday, it's been announced. So EMF will be playing with special guests on Saturday the 20th of November, and you better get your skates on because it is at the Golden Lion in Todmorden, and the Golden Lion is a pub. It's not a massive pub, but it's got a great tradition of live music there, and yeah, this will be an absolute belter. I would just get on it, really. Get yourself a ticket. But anyway, here's the intro to episode 20 with James Atkin.
Hello, and welcome to the Gig Stories podcast with Chris and I, and boy, is this a different episode, or at least a different intro and outro for Chris and I. You can probably hear lots of background noise, and that's not just Chris's attic, is it?
No, there's a kerfuffle. There's a bit of a kerfuffle around here.
A kerfuffle!
And you know what?
That is brilliant.
We've had over 18 months of no kerfuffle.
I know, we've had zero kerfuffleage.
Yeah.
And now we're in Halifax's The Peace Hall for some professional kerfuffle.
We're in kerfuffle central.
live kerfuffle, headlined by none other than Gig Stories podcast past guest Rick Whitter in his band Shed 7.
That's his band?
That's his band! He owns it and everything.
Wow.
And so the exciting thing is, Chris and I are at a live gig together for the very first time since before lockdown, and since we started this podcast.
Oh, it's so nice, and the sun's been shining. It's kind of, the sun is about to go down, but it's still very pleasant. We've got a DJ, I think he's called the Brighton Beach DJ.
Yes, the Brighton Beach DJs.
Yes, he's playing loads of Northern Soul, and we've got a bit of Kingsman on in the background.
Love it, I love it. And we have already witnessed Skylights, who opened the festival, who are honestly just, what a great opening, a great start to festival, great sing-along, anthemic, triumphant, I think is what I said when I tweeted it, and they were great, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely knockout. And then we had Mr. David Gedge and the Wedding Present, and yeah, I forget how much I love the Wedding Present. I just love that fast guitar, jing.
Me too.
Love it.
Have you lost your god life too much? Apple pie. I just love him, and I was smiling as he walked out. I love the Wedding Presents. You're right, they're fantastic. And then next up, the Pigeon Detectives, who I know very little about.
I know even less than Alex.
You know even littler.
Even even littler. Yeah.
Man, you know littler. But everyone is here and excited, and just, it's such a cliche, but I think people are just pleased to be out and at live gigs.
Yeah.
And so we can't wait to watch Shed 7. And it's nice as well because Christopher is actually doing his day job as well.
Yeah, I'm doing some photographing, which is great. The light's lovely, and and also it's just lovely to do our intro and outro with an audience, because they're hanging on our every word.
They are. They literally, they cannot get enough of us, can they? Look at them.
Faces.
I know, all lined up in the bar, and they've got. I must say, they've got lovely backs, all of them.
Yeah. They couldn't get two hoots.
And now we are winging this, and I hope it works, and I hope even if the sound is a bit bonkers and crazy, that it's enough to put up with, because we just wanted to get a bit of the atmosphere, and as we're doing that, you get a bit of the Pigeon Detectives bass drum.
Drum tech. Oh yeah, cheers drum tech.
But just having that, just feeling that, witnessing, I sound daft, but witnessing techs, tune up, sound check, get ready, it just gives me that really excited feeling.
Yeah, I love it. It's like the orchestra tuning up.
Yeah, like yes, yeah, and we've spoken about that before.
Yeah,
that excitement that we'd have in St David's Hall or wherever we were, and it's that tuning up and getting ready, and that, I'll be honest, if the Pigeon Detectives are as good as their snare drum sounds, then they should be all right. I'll be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
And of course, from a music point of view, it's been announced during the past week that Alan and Joe will be leaving Shed 7, so they've only got a couple of shows left together as with this lineup. So we're really lucky that we're here and seeing Shed 7, and bring on everything. They are one of those bands that the set list from start to finish is just banger after banger. That's what the kids say, isn't it, Chris?
No, absolutely. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I've seen so many Shed 7 t-shirts. I mean, I'm standing just behind a guy. It's getting better all the time.
It's a lot of cliches there. I could link us into all kinds, but I won't. I'll ignore it, and I'll move on to today's episode, which was an absolute, in the words of Chris, was a hoot.
It was a real hoot. And this was, I don't know how this came about, because our guest, we don't know him, or we didn't know him before the pod. I photographed his band for it was Gigantic Festival, which is at Manchester Academy. I think it was 2018. Oddly enough, Wedding Present were on that bill as well.
Amazing.
But it's none other than James Atkin, lead singer, frontman of EMF.
E, ecstasy, M.
No.
Oh, damn it.
Nope.
Damn it.
Nope.
What a band, man. If I'm being honest, I think I'd forgotten about them for a while. And they really were incredible. And I remember some of those live shows back in the day. They were raucous, man. They were absolutely brilliant. One of the most fun nights you could have out.
Yeah, and when I did photograph them at Manchester Academy, they were knockout. They were really solid, really tight. And they just played all the hits. But when they came out in around about, when was Schubert Dip out? Was it 91?
Yeah.
1991?
Yeah. Don't quote me, but I think so.
Yeah, I just remember they talked about it, the fact that there was so much hype around the album. But also it felt like they were a little bit dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely a bit edgy. Who's this? Who are these young upstarts?
Yeah, but then when you hear James talk, he's such a sweetheart. With this lovely accent, which is
gosh,
is kind of Midlands, Birmingham, but with West Country, and now he's up in Yorkshire.
I'll be honest, not by the end. 5 minutes in, I had a serious man crush what a charming man. There's a song in there somewhere. And I am absolutely going to go and party hard at his house. I'm going to find his farmhouse and we're having a big old party.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we leave you to enjoy the episode, there's just something that a subject we wanted to broach, and rather than ignore it, we wanted to mention and acknowledge that James from EMF is another wonderful guest and is another male guest on the Gig Stories podcast.
Yeah.
So here's the thing we wanted to acknowledge and let you know. We know that as it stands, the weight of male and female guests on Gig Stories, the males far outweigh the females. And there's a couple of things Chris and I personally, we would like an even balance. And from the start of the podcast, that is exactly what we've been aiming to do. And because of circumstances and timings and availability, it looks like we just love males. But I think it's important for us to acknowledge it, and so that you know, and in fact, again, by coincidence, we have a lot of female guests and their episodes that are about to be released. So you will notice all of a sudden we'll have a run of 4 or 5 that are going to be all female. So honestly, it's not because we are lads. It is all about timing, availability, and nothing more. So we just thought, let's tell our listeners exactly that.
No, absolutely. And honestly, the list of guests that are coming up are fantastic.
Hello, pigeon detectives.
There's a man trying to drown out this.
I mean, I don't think he understands that we've booked the Peace Hall for an hour for the Gig Stories podcast. How dare he?
Guys, can everyone just keep it down?
So stay with us, and we realise that if we bank a lot of guests, we pre-record episodes so that we can carry on bringing you an episode fortnightly. And again, let me just give huge shout out to Love to Chris for making sure that's happened through the summer as well. If we just kept waiting, then we wouldn't be able to do that. So, yes, we've had lots of males, and you are going to see a long run of females, but we just wanted to let you know that is the situation we are in, and we appreciate you listening and all of your feedback anyway.
Yeah, I don't have any more to add to that.
Oh, look at that.
So I am just going to say that, yes, hello.
He's just going to say that the other guitarist is now tuning up for the Richard
Same
Stepton.
guy who just ran across to the other side of the stage.
He is multi-talented, that boy.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a guitar or a drum tech, but I don't play guitar.
That doesn't matter.
Or drums.
Doesn't matter.
Nor does he, is that what you're saying?
That's going to be.
Well, I think this is probably as good a time as any to leave you to it and enjoy this episode.
Here's James Atkin.
Yes! Yeah! A Scotsman, a Welshman and an Englishman walk into a Zoom meeting for the Gig Stories podcast, and today's Englishman is singer, songwriter, teacher, let's be honest, legend. It's Mr. James Atkin. James, how are you, lovely man?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. How's it all going?
Yeah, I'm feeling better for that introduction. I kind of just hold away in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, living a very quiet, gentle life, and forget about the real world sometimes. So it's lovely to see some real people.
Yeah.
Oh,
What kind of real? Trying to keep it real.
I'd have taken the laptop out into Salford and, introduced you to some people, showed you some traffic. You remember traffic?
Well, yeah. I want to see people. I want to see lights. As Morrison said. Live near Salford, isn't there? Yeah.
Are you literally in the middle of nowhere?
Yes. I mean, we have a neighbour about quarter of a mile. We've got a river and then there's a farm. So yeah, we're pretty isolated. It's lovely because we get to make as much noise as we want. Get occasional complaints. Not very often though. The farmer has been over a couple of times
because of the noise.
Yeah, and he always. Sorry, go on, Chris.
No, I was going to say, is that because you've been taking it outside, or is that because you've been playing in the house and it's just been eye-wateringly loud?
Well, we've just been hammering it in the house. I mean, when I was younger, all I wanted to do was move to the countryside and have a big sound system. And now I've moved to the countryside. I've got a massive PA. It's like a club festival PA in this kind of, I'd love to say it's a nice outhouse, but it's not. It's just a converted double garage. Unfortunately, I've got no one to party with anymore. So it's just me and my wife, and we get carried away, and then we turn it up and up and up to the point where we're just shouting at each other because we can't hear each other.
Like in a club.
Yeah, like in a club. Yeah. And then occasionally the farmer comes over.
Let's just go back. Let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about. I love hearing people's stories. Tell us about music and your childhood, or maybe you fell in love with music later on. Did you grow up in a musical household?
I did grow up in a musical household. I was born in Birmingham. My parents were both very musical. My father was a banjo player.
Mine too.
Yeah, no, well, my first experience of live music was being dragged around the folk clubs in Birmingham, which, was they got such a rich history and culture, folk clubs in Birmingham, and we were kind of hanging out. There was a scene, I think they were called beatniks. Would they have been beatniks in the 50s and 60s?
Yeah, 60s, yeah.
And then in the 70s, like kind of, we used to hang around with like the Campbells, which, UB40s, grandparents and things like that. They used to babysit me. So we were all part of that Birmingham folky scene. So that was my first real experience of, and my dad used to sing to me every night to sleep, and he was quite politicized himself, and he used to just sing. I'm not sure about rebel songs, but he usually sang like, trade union songs. And, things like this.
Were they kind of British songs, or were they kind of your Pete Seeger songs, or?
Well, he adored Pete Seeger, obviously, because of the banjo playing. But they were I suppose they were socialists, so it was all like the red flag and all this sort of stuff. And
that is amazing.
Yeah, that was the vibe.
I've said before on this podcast that my dad would do the same, and either his banjo or his guitar, and he would sing me to sleep. There was no sleeping going on with Lonnie Donegan songs.
Fantastic.
The Wabash Cannonball and the Wreck of the Old 97 and stuff. And you had a similar upbringing.
And I think it kind of just got instilled in my mind, and I kind of just got obsessed with music. And then my nan, she gave me a load of 45s, and they were all like quite dodgy, some of it rock and roll, but things like, Shadows records and stuff like this. And I used just to listen to these records non-stop, playing them over and over again. And then, this sounds a bit weird, but I used to kind of just imagine myself performing them or playing them, and then if anything knocked my concentration, I used to have to start the record again and things like that. So it obviously became a bit of an obsession. Bit of a weirdo, really. Yeah?
No, that's not that. I think back in the days of old vinyl and radiograms, I think there was, the whole process was enchanting, wasn't it? And as a kid, I found the whole thing, what is this? Looking at all the covers, this is amazing. Oh, I'll listen to this one. Put it on, pull the arm. It was an experience. I don't want to sound like that old man, but it was quite enchanting. And I think I remember falling in love with music via playing vinyl on the big radiogram that we
Well,
had.
I think I've got to the stage now where every time I go back to see my parents in Scotland, I'll just take a little look at their record collection and just see if there's anything else that I can just nick, because it's sitting in the garage. It's not doing anything. So I've just been taking these. So I've got some lovely Bread albums and Dark Side of the Moon and Bridge Over Troubled Water and all these kind of stuff, and just kind of take the odd one, a couple of Beatles, because they never listen to them. It's like it's a waste. So I mean, saying that, I hardly ever get my records on the record player anyway. But at least I know where they are.
You were lucky. I mean, I say you were lucky. I was lucky as well. But my parents are, I think, are a bit older than yours, and so I had a choice of Lonnie Donegan, Glenn Miller, and Dr. Hook.
Wow.
Dr. Hook. When you're in love with a beautiful woman.
I've told you, Alex. I've told you.
So, James, when you say your dad, so my dad was just a home player. Your dad was actually out playing gigs then, was he?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't very good, and he'll admit that himself. He was just, he's quite, he's not a great musician, but I find it a bit mind-boggling that you can say, name a song, and he would just play it like that. Where now, I just can't do that. I'll have to get the chords and work it out and stuff like that, and he'll just go, oh yeah, hum it. And he'll just, he probably only knows 3 chords, but he seems to just smash tunes out. And
well, that's from being involved in folk sessions, because people, if you're in a folk session, you're expected to just know, and people will just shout out a number and everyone go, right, okay, in G, whoop, and then you're in. So you were kind of going around the clubs of Birmingham with your dads. When was the first time that you went to a gig that was your choice and your choice alone? You went, right, I'm going to go and see that band.
I'd moved from Birmingham. I'd moved to Gloucester, and then Gloucester Leisure Centre had some gigs, and the first one I actually went to was Susie and the Banshees.
Wow, nice one.
And this was like 86 or something. Great first gig to go to.
That is brilliant.
And it was really kind of quite terrifying. I remember Susie, so she stopped the gig halfway through because there was loads of skinheads fighting, and she had a go at them and stuff like this, and it was proper hostile. Like, wow, loved it. I was hooked.
Do you mind me asking how old you would have been then?
I was probably about 15, 16.
So were you sort of the darker side of music in the 80s? Was the goth thing or punky thing?
Yeah, I was total goth. One of the actual first gig I tried to go to was The Mission.
Wow.
Bristol Studio. I think it's Bristol Studio. I can't remember what it was called back in the day. But I actually turned up. Some older kids had taken me, and I couldn't get in because I was too young.
No way. Well,
yeah.
The Mission, was that Wayne?
Wayne
Hussey.
Hussey.
Wayne Hussey.
That's it.
Of course. What an incredible looking. They were a duo, weren't they? Were they a duo?
I don't know, because he'd come out of the Sisters of Mercy, hadn't he? And I'd been all over that Sisters of Mercy. I was proper goth, I used to spike my hair up and...
What, Robert Smith style?
Yeah, total Robert Smith style. To the point where, and this is a good story, I bunked off school one day and I went down to Woolworths to get some rock. It was called Rock Hard Hairspray. Just, yeah. And then you put your crimpers on afterwards, and it used to just like that, proper goth. Like, yeah. And then as I was coming back up, I think it was the deputy head and the headmaster were driving around picking up all the kids who were playing truant. They picked me up in their car. They took me back to school. They got the person from the science department. I don't know why, but then they sat me down, looked in my eyes, and says, "You're high. You've been sniffing hairspray." And I was like, "What?" And then so they kind of, yeah. And I says, "Well, look at my hair. I'm a goth."
I haven't been wasting it.
Yeah, I know. They said, "We don't know that." And I actually got thrown out of school for that one.
Shut up.
Yes. So, yeah. So
was that in Gloucester?
Yeah, it was in a place called the Forest of Dean, which was just
another
little place in the middle of nowhere, forgotten place, just outside Gloucester, 14 miles out of Gloucester.
Was it a bit of a posh school? Were you like a bit of a rebel there, or?
It was a rough, like, secondary model. There was nothing posh about it. It was a proper throwback from old-fashioned secondary modern where the kids, nothing went on. And because I'd moved from Birmingham into, like, the second year, I had a strange voice. I wasn't settled, and I never really got to grips with school after that. I never got to grips with school. So I got thrown out of school for that.
Wow.
The victim of the goth victim.
Goth free the goth one.
Isn't it?
So do you? Here's a question. Do you still happen to have the ticket stub from the Susie and the Banshees gig?
No.
Or were you ever one of those people? We say this every episode, but just in case listeners haven't heard them all, Chris and I are. We're the sad ones, and we've got our first gig tickets and loads afterwards.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, I used to collect all the laminates from my own tours and things.
Here it comes. This is what we find when we interview musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of you seem to have kept your laminates and your lanyards. What's the oldest one that you have, do you think?
It's probably going to be from that first tour when we toured with Adamski. When we were in the back of a transit van staying in bed and breakfasts and just opening up little venues and stuff.
And was this what, 89, 90?
It would have been the start of late 89, start of 90, yeah.
How did EMF come about? And now you've told me what you've just told me, how did you go from Mr. Hairspray to EMF?
Well, I was an indie kid in between. Completely indie. I grew out of my goth days, and then I got really into the Smiths and the Bunnymen and all
the Bunnymen.
And then I kind of got really into electronic music. I think New Order was the turning point, but it kind of all of a sudden, I sort of, I turned my back on Lloyd Cole and all the indie stuff and just completely dived into Balearic and Detroit techno and Chicago house, and just become really obsessed with dance music. So that was the real thing. But that was kind of on the cusp of when EMF was starting to happen, because I remember going to Ian, who was the guitarist in Gloucester. I used to travel up on the bus, and he was from an indie band, a guitarist, and I was going, no, we need to be like this, and and I play things like the Soul to Soul album. We say we've got to have dance grooves, it's got to have the house piano, acid house synths. So that was kind of the turning point.
And around about that time, I think there were a few bands that were kind of doing that same kind of mashup of the emerging dance scene from Manchester, but and from London, obviously, but with that indie sensibility as well. So the likes of Flowered Up was one that I was listening to earlier today. Your Jesus Jones and around about that time. So did you feel like there was a bit of a kind of movement around that time where you were kind of almost bridging the gap between the late 80s indie scene and this emerging house style?
It didn't feel like a scene at the time, and it wasn't contrived, and we didn't try to do that. It was kind of just, I suppose, just a melting pot of what had come before, our indie roots, and then just looking at house music, but also looking at American hip hop music. There was lots of it was an exciting time for music. I mean, there was kind of, great genres of music going on. But I think it was an accident. I'd gone, and our Derry, who was the keyboard player, he dragged us down to Exeter to go and see Jesus Jones. And this is when we kind of had the, EMF was kind of in at an ideas point, and seeing these bands. But I was pretty naive. I didn't really understand what was going on. I'd kind of just started making music, and I guess it just comes out, doesn't it?
Do you know what? I'm still genuinely, I'm still reeling from the fact that you just mentioned Soul to Soul. Because now I watched you guys loads. Our friend Zoe in Cardiff was obsessed with you, and we all saw you lots. So I've listened to your music and seen you for years and years, and not once until just now have I put that together. And even if you pick something predictable like Unbelievable, as you've just been talking there, no offense to you two, I've just been thinking the background rhythm section, samples, and that Soul to Soul, slightly speeded up. That I have never clicked on that influence, and people are probably there going, all right, Alex, that's boring. That's just blown my mind. That's blown my mind. I can't believe I can hear now those influences that you obviously have, especially with the Chicago house and all that. And I've just gone, of course, Why have I not clicked until now? So actually, I would just want to jump a bit back and forth because I'm interested now. Susie was your first gig.
Yeah.
Can you just plot live? Because this is, we just love the live gigs. Can you just plot a small graph to EMF for me, for you personally, in your gig going life? So, for me, it was very easy. I went from classical music as a kid to Michael Jackson to then the Shaman and James and then Radiohead through. What live bands, how did you quickly get to EMF? What were you actually going to see?
That's quite a nice way of doing it, isn't it? So obviously it was Susie Sue, and then I went and saw the Bunnymen, and then I started getting quite into indie, and then saw the House Martins, which was a bit of an eye-opener.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, all of a sudden it was getting a bit indie schmindy. Festivals played a big part because we were in the West Country. From 85 we were hitchhiking or getting a bus down to Glastonbury and walking into Glastonbury,
of course,
so Glastonbury all the way through the 80s. And then that summer I left school, I hitchhiked down to Reading Festival. Great in them days. I didn't even have a ticket. I don't know if I had any money for food or anything, but you kind of just on a wild adventure. So yeah, and then there was a few other gigs like the Jesus Jones gig.
At those festivals, because I'm obsessed with this. Who were some of the headliners that you remember? Because I wasn't old enough to get to festivals till, what was I, 18 in 95? So it wasn't until the mid-90s I was going to festivals, but I would love to have been going at the end of the 80s into the 90s. Who do you remember? Who were the standouts, sort of headliner-wise? Well, it doesn't have to be headliner. Well, that's a bit predictable of me, but...
do you know what, Alex? I cannot remember. I remember...
Because it blurs.
Certainly the Glastonburys in the mid-80s were it wasn't like it was Glastonbury today, and it was bands like Hawkwind and Gong and lots of psychedelic, drug-fueled hippie mentalness.
Yeah.
That was kind of the vibe. I'd love to remember.
That's it. Let's end it there. We've got the quote for the episode. I'd love to remember. James Atkin. that is brilliant. So just before we then get to EMF, just give me another one or two, because you mentioned the and this piqued my interest as well, because it sounds like I had a similar journey to you, but just a few years later. You mentioned techno and the Chicago house scene and stuff. Were you going to see DJs? Had DJs become a thing quite yet then? Your locale?
Not that I had discovered.
No. Okay.
I moved down to London briefly in 88 and 89, and I remember dressing up. I put a smiley face bandana on and going to these clubs like the Mud Club and the Wag Club to find this techno music. And I couldn't find it. It wasn't there. I was probably just going to the wrong places. Told me it was happening.
Where is Voodoo Ray? Where is he?
But it was only, it was only till like, I don't want to jump forward to EMF, but it was after EMF come back from America that I got back to my local Forest of Dean village, and there was roadblocks and raves going on and free parties, and everyone was going, are you going there? Such as we're in a field, we're doing this. And that's when it really hit me. But certainly it was more, I think I kind of got given some cassettes of things like some Balearic Beats and Finny Tribe and Nitzareb, and that was kind of my introduction to dance music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasn't really going out raving, although we were making our own little raves in the Forest of Dean, but it was more drink fueled rather than drug fueled.
I was going to say, because I'm sure that the Forest of Dean had quite a reputation, didn't it, for its own pop-up
raves and parties.
Raves, yeah.
Yeah, it did. We used to, when we left school, we just used to just head into the woods and, dance around a fire and stuff like that. We kind of made our own entertainment because there wasn't much going on. But the thing about the Forest of Dean, I don't know if you know the Forest, it's kind of got some small towns in it. It was all about live music scene, and everybody was in a band, or you'd go and see a band every other night, and there was just so much live music.
So what age were you when EMF Was it EMF your first band, or was there another band before then?
Well, I played in bands when we were at school. I'd played with different members of EMF at different times. We'd always kind of been a little group, but playing in different bands, and I'd have a member here, a member there. We were gigging whilst we were still at school in the 5th year of the last year at school, and there was a little pub in one of the nearest towns, little villages, that we played at, and they used to serve underage. How about that?
That is amazing. Because I was going to ask, what were the early EMF gigs like?
Oh, they were wild. I mean, we had so much, I don't know if it was arrogance, or we just told everyone we were the greatest band in the world and we were going to do this. And before we even had any songs written, you know, we were just telling everyone how brilliant we were. And then we actually went and booked a gig at a local pub, told everyone, and then just thought, wow, we better do some rehearsal and write some songs. I mean, and luckily we kind of, Ian, who I'm really friendly with Ian, Ian was the guitarist, and he was a couple of years older. He's from Gloucester, and he already played in a band called Mosaic, and they'd had a little deal, and he'd already gone on tour with Squeeze and things like this. So he was the mature musician, and he came down to the Forest of Dean just by chance and saw the rest of us just, I think we were in our mum's living room dressed up in fancy dress clothes, jumping up and down on the couch, and, you know, so clueless what doing. And I think he saw something in us and kind of knocked us into shape a little bit. So, but yeah, it happened really quick.
When did you feel like you knew what you were doing as a band live?
I don't know. I mean, I was always a bit of a reluctant frontman anyway. I love music, and I wanted to be a guitarist in the band. And at the first rehearsal, I think we had 3 guitarists, or everyone was on a guitar, so we had to divvy up the jobs a little bit. So Zach went on to bass from guitar, Derry went on to the keyboards, Ian obviously stayed on the guitar because he could play it. And then I was like, okay, I'll sing. And then I was kind of very reluctant, and I didn't really think I knew what I was doing. I don't think I ever have, really. I kind of think I'm just a little bit of a chancer, and I have moments when I think, yeah, I've got this, but most of the time it's like, really.
Do you still, I don't want to put words into your mouth, imposter syndrome, or you just thought this isn't quite?
I just thought I was pretty rubbish.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but it took me a while. I mean, it's taken me, I kind of get it now, and I kind of look at the people I like in bands, like, you know, your Bernard Sumners or your Ian McCullochs, and they're not great vocalists, and it's the character, isn't it, and the, you know, the conviction. But certainly at the time back then, I was thinking, God, I am just, you know, an imposter, and I didn't understand that maybe the character was the thing that was getting me through this, and people were digging. I just thought I was a pretty rubbish singer, really. I probably am, you know.
Oh, shush.
Go on.
But EMF, I remember hearing the first couple of singles, and then there was this massive kind of desire for the album to come out. I remember there was a lot of expectation. Did you feel quite, I don't know, were you shitting it, basically? Going, oh my God,
asking some questions.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, this is Michael Parkinson stuff here.
Brilliant.
But you know, were you feeling that pressure?
I wasn't, Chris. I wasn't not feeling any pressure whatsoever, because we were just on a ride, just having a ball, and not really knowing what was going on. We were pleased just to have a single out, then another single, and to be in a studio making an album. It didn't really matter if it was going to be successful or not. We never had, you know, any master plan or anything. So yeah, I wasn't shitting it.
But were you reading the press though? Because for us as music fans,
yeah.
Now I God's honest truth, before Chris said that, I was going to talk about the hype behind EMF, because it was very, very, anyone that was around, it was very different to other bands. There was a massive hype about this EMF. And I think it was linked to you saying that you weren't a great singer. And I don't think anyone was talking about whether EMF were going to be a beautiful vocal band. It was a case of these boys are something different, and they bring this party vibe. So did you ignore the music press then? Because we were reading it and we were like, oh my gosh, this album, we need this band.
Well, I mean, it's quite strange, really. I mean, we had a really good press agent, and we were kind of perfect for, you know, everything, all the red tops, any bits of scandal, any bits of story, any bits of naughtiness. You know, they picked up on that. It's funny though, because when we first released the album, the first album, we were getting lots of teeny bop press, because I don't know whether it's because we're pretty boys, but you know, it was front covers of smash hits and things like this. Which
Well, that's what I was reading. That's what I was. I wasn't reading NME at the age of 15. I was reading smash hits, and and maybe Select. Was Select around at that point, or was it?
Select was around. There's a few magazines like that. So it wasn't the cool press anyway. I mean, I was just, you know, we were just buzzing, getting, you know, front covers of smash hits and things like that. And then, you know, being in the Mirror every week for, you know, smashing up hotel rooms and stuff like that. So it was just great. I mean, I never really worried. It's funny that you said that about the music though, because I don't think anyone really commented on the music that much. So
yeah, but that album was and genuinely is a great album though, and it can be, in hindsight, maybe people will mention unbelievable, but actually when you listen now, you were more than that single, because it did go stellar. I mean, am I right in thinking as well that it was even bigger in America than it was here, that single?
Yeah, I mean, it went to the top of the Billboard charts in America. It was number 1 in America.
It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. But thanks for saying that. I mean, I'm proud of the album. There is some cracking songs on there, and it's got a lot of depth. It was definitely, you know, a lot of albums of that time of bands of our ilk, it's kind of just one thing. And we did have a bit of, you know, bit of texture going on and stuff. And yeah, thanks.
When did you see your live gigs change? There must have been perhaps a point like, oh wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, I think we learned our craft on the road. So certainly that first 3 or 4 months doing the Adamski tour, then doing our own little club tour and then thing, that's when the band got really good, and there was such an energy in the band that we were so clicked and just could really, you know, touring is the greatest thing for a band to develop. But yeah, I guess going to America was pretty wild. That's Unbelievable had hit the top spot. You know, going from playing to a couple of hundred people to playing, you know, big indoor arenas and things like that. That was pretty special.
Yeah. Were you when you were touring? I love this question. Well, I certainly love the answers that we sometimes get. Is so often when you're touring, you get paired up with odd support bands, ones which you wouldn't normally go. Well, they're nothing like us. What are you doing? I'm just wondering if you had that, or you know, touring Europe or whatever. Were you paired with bands where you thought, what? Eh?
Not that I remember. I mean, I've had some crazy support acts. We had the Wurzels once. Wurzels.
What?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean the Wurzels. Although we did invite them ourselves, and it's quite funny.
Oh.
I
tell you what, there was this one time we had this crazy support. We invited them.
Yeah, and we said, how do you want to get paid? And they wanted, honestly, they said, oh, just bung us 500 quid and just give us loads of cider. And it was like, okay.
I kind of knew you were going to say that. I don't know why. Just pay us in cider.
That is brilliant. Can I ask if you, because I like that you learned it on the road. You said, you know, practicing live. Were you also a hard-working band behind the scenes? Did you rehearse a lot away from those live gigs?
No. I mean, what we did, we just wrote. Well, I think we were pretty rehearsed, but I think you only have to get a few gigs under your belt, and that's your rehearsal, really, isn't it? So we are not one of those bands that will go into a rehearsal room and just rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. I was talking to Miles the other day, Miles home from the Wonder stuff, and the Wonder stuff, they used to rehearse so much to the point where they don't think about what they're playing anymore and stuff like that, that's kind of the way he likes to do it. But no, but it's the same. It's the same with Bentley Rhythm Ace, because, you know, I do some live gigs with Bentley Rhythm Ace, and we haven't rehearsed for about 20 years now. We just get booked a gig and we just go and do it. So,
yeah. I mean, do you find that that's just a kind of muscle memory thing? You're just like, yeah, we're just there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if I've got an EMF gig, I kind of, sometimes I will just go over it a couple of times, just the lyrics and stuff, but total muscle memory. I'm not going to forget the words to any of those EMF songs.
And is that because you feel like you want to keep it fresh, you know, because you can't, I know you can over rehearse, you can really become stale with it. So is that because you kind of just want to keep it as fresh as possible?
Yeah, I think so. Also, being the singer, I don't think it matters too much. I think the singer's you've got to just have the vibe, haven't you? But, you know, if the drum and bass player are out of time because they're under rehearse, that might be a problem then. But,
yeah. But that's their problem.
You can get away with anything when you're a singer. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to sing out of tune or anything. Well, I might do, but, you know. So.
Hey, I've seen a lot of acts sing out of tune.
Okay. What, like Ian Brown? Has Ian Brown ever sung in tune?
Do you know what? Bizarrely, I think he might have sung in tune at the.
You say Spike Island now, isn't it?
It could have been.
1989 or something.
I think he sang in tune at the Etihad Stadium, Man City Stadium.
No, he didn't.
I saw him.
No, he didn't, Chris. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He definitely sounded more in tune than he did back in the day.
Chuck D sounded more in tune than Ian Brown.
Back in Newport Centre days.
Honestly, Public Enemy were more in tune than Ian Brown.
Because they were. Flipping love those boys. Did your live gigs, because they weren't known for being a bit crazy, you know? I mean, I was there. Is there anything that comes to mind? Did you have sort of any funny, strange interactions or any moments like that with the fans?
There was a few crazy gigs. I remember Jim Bob invited us to go and support Carter at ULU as surprise guests. Although unbeknownst to me, Jim Bob, for days before on the tour, weeks before on the tour, on his own tour, had egged all his fans on to give us a really hard time. So I walked on stage at ULU, and honestly, I got hit by about 200 plastic glasses. Just throw it just like that. It was like mayhem. And like, it's just like, what
a cheeky bastard.
Yeah. You know what? I had it out with him the other day, and he reckons that's not the story, but he was really apologetic, but he says it wasn't that. And I kind of believe him. We're friends. So
you believe him that they were just trying to glass you? Just
yeah.
So he's saying nothing to do with me. It was all you, basically. That's even cheekier.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that is actually. I never thought about that one. But no, it got really hairy. I mean, to the point where people were trying to get on stage and attack us and hit us. And I had my mic stand, and I'm not proud of this, but I was kind of beating people up with the mic stand, and you know, people coming up on stage and shoving them out. And it was like we had this old roadie called Slouch. And he'd worked with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and all that. And he goes, afterwards in the dressing room, he had a little tear in his eye. He goes, I haven't seen anything like that since the Sex Pistols at the 100 Club or something.
As you said that with the mic stand, I was like, that just sounds like early birthday party gigs with Nick Cave. You know, he's known for that. He just smashed people in the face. And people were paying for that, James. You missed a trick there.
I'm just imagining Jim Bob at the side of the stage, kind of rubbing his hands together like some kind of evil musical puppet master. I've created this.
Moving up to second place. That is brilliant. I love that. Did you used to recognize the the Barrier crew. Did you have a lot of fans at EMF that were, you were like, oh, there's them again, there's them again?
Yeah, we had a few loyal people who followed us around, and they were always in the mosh pit all the way through every night. Yeah, there was a few legendary people that kind of, you'd see them at, a Poppy's gig or a Carter gig and stuff like that. There was people, into that scene. Yeah, there was.
Is there a gig that stands out where you were just, you looked out on the crowd, and it could be a festival or wherever, you just looked out on the crowd and you just were like, this is the dog's bollocks. This is absolutely
yeah. I guess, when we played Red in 92, that was a pivotal point because, only a few years before I'd left school and I'd hitched down there without a ticket. And I had to get in, climb over the fence and, awe of this festival. And then to go back there, 4 years later and, be third on the bill on a Saturday night and look out, and it was just, thousands of people. That was kind of like, that was a really big moment. I love that. I was on a high after that one.
What was that, 92, did you say?
Yeah.
Can you remember who else was on that bill?
Well, funny enough, the farm were on before us, and they got pelted by loads of plastic bottles. Nothing to do with me.
No, that was probably Jim Bob again. Jim Bob, right?
Bloody Jim Bob, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay, people. That worked well with the MF. It's the farm next. They're getting it.
I think Nirvana were on the bill because that was the one where he was in his wheelchair. Do you remember when he performed in the wheelchair?
Yeah.
Of course, yes. That was before they headlined, wasn't it?
I think there was kind of the Wonder stuff, and Ride seems to pop into my head for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
That kind of thing with those nerves. Were you good with nerves? Did you used to ride on nerves? Did you give
well, I found out pretty early that I could drink my way through the nerves.
Did you?
Yeah, so I was kind of... Yeah, it got to the point where, because I was quite uncomfortable and not very confident on stage, so the alcohol did help. When you're kind of younger, you can kind of get away with stuff like that and still remember what's going on. Where gigs now, if I get drunk at a gig now, I just can't remember. I can't even remember the gig.
So shall we career head first into the quickfire round?
Yes. Bum 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 bum.
Okay.
Fire round.
I don't know what this is, Chris.
No, it's okay.
Did I know what this is?
No, it's really easy.
Okay.
You just have to bring facts from inside your head out through your mouth.
That easy.
Your favorite live band?
Beastie Boys.
Beastie Boys. Good choice.
Oh, I might even get in the car tonight and drive up to you. Oh, I still watch now. I saw them a few times live, but I watch it's on YouTube, and they feel, they're in the round tour.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
They there's a HD version on YouTube from the Glasgow gig.
Oh yeah.
And it's just thinking about it. Here's on my next stand-up, because you got Mixmaster Mike doing his 5 minutes, and then he just goes straight into bam and bam, bam, bam and bam, and they're still not on stage. Bam and bam, 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 and then they just appear out of the crowd onto that stage. Well, it's 50 cups of coffee and and I'm like, yes, I love you. They were just like, yeah, they were incredible. Like, did you ever see them, Chris?
Yeah, I saw them at Tea in the Park a couple of times.
Oh, I bet they tore it up at Tea in the Park.
Oh, incredible. They were kind of mid-afternoon set as well, so they weren't headlining. They obviously wanted to kind of get on, get off, and then head off back to the States or something. But yeah, it was kind of roundabout intergalactic and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they were...
That is a belter, James.
Yeah, yes. It's like 95, something like that.
Correct answer.
Yeah,
you
correct.
answered that one correct. Correct.
Take that one off.
100%.
What would you say was your best gig? Where was your I was going to say peak, but that suggests that it went downhill after that peak. But when did you think, yeah, I can do this?
I don't think I ever felt like that, Alex, but
did you not?
A few moments. I mean, some of the ones that stick in your mind are the exotic ones, I guess, like, you know, playing in Brazil. I think we played that. It was called Rock in Rio, and it was like,
you played Rock in Rio?
Yeah,
that's like massive, wasn't it?
It was like the biggest gig I've ever seen in my life. It was like, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands. And then I remember I was on stage and Bob Geldof was staring at me all the way through from the side of the stage.
What?
A bit weird.
No, you are not wrong there. I think Rock in Rio is like 120, 130,000 people.
Mental. It was bizarre. Yeah.
Do you remember who else was on the lineup?
Well, Bob Geldof was on there because he kept looking at me strange. And then because when I come off, he sent a message back to the dressing room going, "Oh, he really liked my shorts, and where can he get a pair of my, you know, my orange and Arctic shorts?"
Brilliant.
So Bob, there you go.
From Bob.
I can't remember who else was on the bill. Another gig that I really felt really good about was Estonia, which was quite unusual because we took an Aeroflot plane over to, you know, a newly departed from the USSR country.
Yeah.
And that was a huge one again. And it was great because all the punters and the kids and the people, they all had homemade EMF t-shirts, homemade EMF banners.
Oh, yes.
And you've never seen a crowd so appreciative of, you know, you giving them what they want. And I still meet people to this day, like, because apparently it was broadcast on Russian TV, and there was a whole generation of Russians who this footage of EMF at Estonia was their kind of benchmark for them to go off and make loads of music and stuff. So that was
Estonians all singing E, ecstasy, M.
And Noel Gallagher was at that gig, actually. I remember him in the dressing room. Because Clint, the Inspirals were out there, Inspiral Carpets.
Right, okay.
He was knocking around. So, yeah, I remember that. Funny, it's lovely talking about it. It's all it's funny. It pops into your head and you just speak it. Thank you, Chris.
That's all right. I told you, you have to just draw it from your head and it comes out of your mouth.
Good. I love this stuff.
What was your worst ever gig as a performer?
Oh, I played the Paradisa in Amsterdam, and I got stoned. And I don't really smoke spliff. I never have, and I never did. And then I was so paranoid.
Oh no!
To the point where I was crushed inside, and I couldn't. I just stood there, and I was just opening my. I wasn't particularly really stoned. I was just a little bit paranoid. When you're on stage, you do not want to be paranoid when loads of people are looking at you, do you?
Are they all looking at? Are you all looking at me? Why are you looking at me? We've paid to come and look at you. Well, why are you looking at me?
Yeah.
So are you kind of looking behind your shoulder going, what?
I learned my lesson there.
I mean, that sound, because I wanted to ask, what's your strangest gig? But I don't know if you've answered that already. I'm not sure.
We've done some, I mean, when we were in America, we had to do a lot of these radio shows, because what you do in America is you turn up at a town or a city, and then you have to do a sign in the record store, and then you have to go and do something for the radio, and then it's the gig in the evening. So we did a few performances for these radio shows, and we were down in Louisiana, and
bloody hell,
it got really sketchy where for some reason they wanted us to mime. So, and we were just like, oh God, we don't bloody mime. And we had no instruments.
Done Top of the Pops.
Yeah, well, yeah. But we'd given, and they'd hired some instruments. So we thought these instruments were hired for us. So we got on stage, and we weren't big fans of miming. As soon as we started jumping around, the CD started jumping. So we kind of just were pissing about. We ended up giving all the instruments away to the audience. And then didn't really know, but then when we got backstage, the instruments had belonged to the promoter, and the promoter's brother was the local sheriff. And then a fight broke out because of this, what was going on. Someone got hit, and then all of a sudden we were in the car park, hands on head, sheriffs with their guns pulled like this, and we had to do that thing, you know, when you had to kind of pay off the police, so counting it out in the back of the police car.
Shut up.
And then we got in the vehicle, and then we drove out of state. Honestly, that was a bit of a scary one.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a chapter all on its own in your autobiography.
Well, yeah. And I remember there was a rap band on Digital Underground. Remember Digital Underground?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
They were quite hardcore rap geezers. And
Yeah,
they were looking at us and go, "You guys are fucking crazy." You know, like some simple West Country bumpkins.
Hello, my lovers. Who do you want on this keyboard then?
Yeah.
Next question. What's your favorite venue to play, or your favorite festival? But yeah, let's go for favorite venue or festival.
Favorite venue or festival. Venue, I love Brixton Academy. Not that I've sold that out or played there for quite a while, but Brixton Academy is awesome. So good. I used to like I like the Shine Festival. I know it's kind of a new thing, but it's kind of got a nice vibe, and everyone's really happy, and it's quite relaxed, you know. And then I guess the 100 Club's pretty special because it's small and sweaty and intimate.
I've still never been. Have you ever been, Chris?
No,
not I.
I've been to Shine, I think. I've not been to the holiday camp one. Oh, I'm getting mixed up. I'm getting it mixed up with Star Shaped and Gigantic.
Oh yeah, you did Gigantic because you took the pictures, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Is that the Manchester one? Is it the Gigantic?
Yeah, that was the Academy.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a good lineup. That Wedding Present, and I think Wonder Stuff, and who else was on? Pop Will Eat Itself. 1,000 Yard Stare.
Wowzers. Pop Will Eat Itself. Clint Mansell. Whatever happened to him, eh? So. Moving on.
No. But the funny thing is, though, every time when we were touring with Clint everyone used to just shout at Clint, "Go to bed, Clint." He was really like outrageous, drunk, sort of, you know. And who would have thought, you know, going on to now he's, you know, in a jacuzzi in the Hollywood Hills.
That is hilarious. I mean, he more than anyone. That what a career projection that was. Bonkers, wasn't it?
Great, good for him.
And let's just give a shout out to Pop Will Eat Itself live. What a night they were.
Yeah, they taught me a lot.
Did they? And on record, they were just brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so you're playing live, and it could be with the band or you solo.
Mm.
You have to cover one song. You have to choose a song that you just love to perform live. What's it going to be?
Is it one that I've already done before, or just anything I can choose?
You can choose anything, whatever you like. I love it when an artist plays a cover, because there's often something behind it, and you often get a different interpretation. Or
well, I do quite a lot of covers because me and my wife, we get in the studio on a Friday evening and we have a few drinks, and we usually do a cover. So we've been doing lots recently. So
what time do I need to be there on Friday? That's 7 or 8. Are kids in bed?
You just come anytime. Oh god! All right, I'd like to. I'm thinking of a song by the Specials or something. Let's have a think. A good special song.
Oh, really?
Rudy. Yeah.
Yes, a belter.
Or the live version of Too Much Too Young. You know, the speeded up version. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, great! I'm not sure I would have guessed that if I'd have had All Night. The Specials. Good shout.
Yeah.
I like that.
But the Tonight Matthew.
Yeah.
That's. I was listening to some of them today. There's some absolute belters in there. Absolute crackers. Thanks, it's lovely. It's just a lovely vibe, and just I've just been binging today.
It was such a nice thing to do. I think because we're kind of going into that pandemic, weren't we? And everyone was unsure what was going on. All gigs have been cancelled. Everybody's diary was free. I just rang up and people couldn't really say no, especially because we were doing it to help musicians. And it was such a nice way. That became because I did it with Richard from Pop Loop South. That became our social night, putting that together remotely, and being in touch with friends like, Mary and, Fuzz and everybody else who was on the records and stuff. So it was a lovely thing to do. And it's I'm glad people said yes.
And really quirky ones, the Buffalo Springfield, for what it's worth. That's it was just a lovely. I forget what the name of the singer. Who was singing on that version with you?
Oh, it was Hannah something of her, because she went on to do the Voice, didn't she? She was in the semi-finals of the Voice, or the finals of the Voice. Did you know that?
Yes. I think she was
Hannah Williams.
That's
Hannah Williams. Yeah, and she just had made some really interesting choices when she was doing the melody, because she wasn't sticking, really strictly to the melody. I thought it was really interesting.
But it was the version we did was quite an unusual version, because when I suggested it to Richard, let's do this. I wanted to do the Buffalo Spring, and he says, have you heard this version? And it's quite an unusual version because it keeps going up a tone every verse. Like that. Yeah. So it's thankfully we had someone like Hannah who could deal with that, and rather than some dodgy 90s indie singers doing it. But yeah, she was great and she nailed it. Everybody was great. Yeah, Toya was a little bit hard work, but everyone else was fine.
Oh, bless her.
She's Toya. Do you know what? I've got a question that I've not asked before, and it's away from the quick fire round, and this is live. I want to know who are you going to see when you want to just go for a good dance, who are you going to see when you want to rock out, and who are you going to see if you just want some kind of like fairly chilled out vibe. So three different acts live. So you want to go for an all-out dance party. Who are you seeing live?
Oh, probably it always goes back to the Chemical Brothers. Chemical Brothers' visuals and live shows are incredible at the moment. They're kind of next level stuff, man. That's like, it's mind-boggling.
They've upped the past two albums. That last 2 years ago.
It's like,
it's ridiculous. 2 years ago when they headlined the other stage at Glastonbury, I had my kids with me, and my little one was 7, and we actually were on the barrier, and I thought this is going to be scary for her. Oh man, she just blew her mind.
It's funny because Rachel, my wife, took our youngest, and he was 12, and he just absolutely loved it. It's just like, wow.
We came out because the crowd got a bit leery, I'll be honest. And we sort of came out to the edges, and I've got this lovely video, and it was for Hey Boy, Hey Girl, actually. And we're on the edge of the crowd, and me and my wife stood behind our 3 kids, and we're just filming them. And it's as it drops, boom, boom, and all 3 of them just start jumping. Boom, boom. You can see then the Chems and Tom and Ed, because they were back together, weren't they? Because Ed, wasn't it, had sort of quit for a while doing live stuff, and it was just it's just incredible that I've never seen them do a bad gig.
Amazing. Right, live rocking bands, something really like probably Fat White Family.
Oh yeah,
really intense, that is, isn't it?
Do they am I mixing them? I've photographed them because they did the NME tour a few years ago, about 3-4 years ago, and do they not have an offshoot where they do Charles Manson covers?
Don't know, Chris.
I think they've got an offshoot where they just do songs that have been written by Charles Manson. We can look into it.
Yeah, look into that.
Yeah, stick with us, kids. We'll get you all the scoops on this podcast.
I wouldn't have guessed that answer either from you, but that is a great shout.
Really, I mean, my wife kind of turns me on to when I say new stuff, because I'm so stuck in, since, has there been any new music since the Smiths' Queen is Dead and New Order Technique? I kind of always go back, but my wife kind of Yeah, I know. My wife kind of plays me new stuff, and she got us tickets to go and see Fontaine's DC.
Yes.
That's going to be good. We're looking forward to that one.
Where are you going for that?
Not sure actually. It might be Manchester. Maybe I'll give you a shout.
Do it, definitely.
I'll tell you who I'd like to go and see again is do you know Working Men's Club? Have you come across them?
Yes.
Because they're kind of almost local. They're in Hepton Bridge, but they were great live. That singer had something going on, man. It was brilliant.
Yeah, really good, really good. And then the last one.
Oh yeah, I like this one.
You want a more of a chilled out vibe. Who are you going to go and see? Now, I'll be interested to see how you interpret chilled out vibe as well. Because, you could say, oh, I'm going to go and see some jazz. Or it could be, I don't know, LTJ Bookham DJing or something.
That's quite chilled, isn't it? Drum and bass is quite chilled, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know. Probably. I mean, I am a sucker. If we go right back to the start of the conversation, I think, Chris, you mentioned Simon and Garfunkel and Bridge Over Troubled Waters and that. That was the kind of music I grew up to, drifting up the stairs, and I was still quite attached to that and love Neil Young and Tom Waits when it was a bit chilled. And so probably a classic artist like that, I think. Probably, I don't know, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's birthday. Has Bob Dylan been
I was just going to say, but not Bob Dylan. There we go, Chris. There we go. We say it again, James. Almost every episode, Bob Dylan comes up, but he comes up under the title "Worst Gig You've Ever Seen."
Oh, really? Okay. Well, maybe I shouldn't. He
does so many bad ones.
I love Bob Dylan. I love him. But yeah, let's not pile on the grief for the old fella. On his birthday, come on.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy birthday, Bob.
I like that you've gone for a classic. Yeah, classic old folk artist or
yeah, I mean, I still love Crosby, Stills and Nash and things like that, And
great shout.
Here's one for you. So, who do you wish you had seen live? You maybe had the chance and chose not to, and then it was too late. Who did you miss your chance with some band or some artist?
I guess. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the Jam. Would have loved to have seen the Clash. I kind of get quite obsessed by musicians who sort of these shamanic musicians who lose themselves in the music. If you look at like Bob Marley, he's kind of so overtaken by the music, and people like Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that, where it's kind of just it's their soul. We're kind of watching their soul, aren't we? You know what I mean? So yeah, probably Bob Marley.
I think the closest I see to that now, and this might be controversial, is Tim Booth from James.
Yes, isn't that strange? Yes, yeah, good old Tim.
He does get lost in it, and I would argue that the tunes don't really go on for long enough for him to get absolutely lost. But when he does his Tim dancing, we used to practice it when 90 around about 92, just after 7 came out. We used to practice our Tim dancing from the videos.
Excellent.
Yeah, loved it.
And is there someone that you really want to see that you could do that you haven't yet, that you haven't ticked off?
No, I think not that I can think of. I think I've seen it all. I've been there. I just want a quiet life now. I just want to sit in my Yorkshire house and just.
Do you not want to come and see AC/DC with me, James?
I fucking do. I love AC/DC.
That's my answer. I've still not seen him.
Oh, right. I did see him once in Canada. It was brilliant. And when they had like the cannons going off and the legs come out, and it was, brilliant. But yeah, Malcolm's not there anymore though. So it's kind of we've missed the boat a little bit, haven't we?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But I hear Brian might be rejoining and doing more live gigs.
Oh, I didn't know he'd left. Had he left that?
He left at the end of the tour, and Axl Rose.
Oh my God.
Did some gigs.
Tell me about this. I know nothing about this.
Oh my gosh, where have you been? In the middle of Yorkshire?
Yeah, in the middle of yeah.
He has I'll just say hearing problems because I can't remember what it was, but doctors had said you've got to stop. at the
Right.
moment while we see to this. But they were sort of they were either mid-tour or they'd already announced the tour, and Axl Rose replaced him. And
Was this like about 2018, something like that?
Oh, yeah. It's the past few years. Yeah, absolutely. And he did a job, Axl, but he sang it in his own voice. You don't want to hear AC/DC like that. But I have heard that he's going to come back and maybe do a few more gigs. So I'll get the tickets, James. I'll pick you up.
Let's
we'll
do
be
it.
gone.
We'll be gone. That'd be great.
So I think you might have even answered this question, but who do you recommend we go and see live? Who should we go and see live when we're allowed to again?
Yeah, Chris and I are trying to get a list together of artists we're going to go and see.
Probably Working Men's Club.
Yes.
Probably the one, hasn't it, I think. And yeah, that's going to be, I don't really follow that much new music for my sins. I really should. But who's going to reform? Is it going to be some bands reforming, do you think?
I hope so. I mean, I always say that I want the Sundays to reform.
That'd be good.
It's a random one.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Sorry, it just kind of popped into my head. But
yeah, I'm liking that. I'm like, you want them to reform? I'm done with that. Dare I ask that question of you, James?
What, are we going to reform?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I've actually got a gig booked at the 100 Club on the 11th of December.
As EMF?
Yeah, as EMF. And one that's probably more suited for you. I'm going to do a warm-up as EMF, full band, a little warm-up at a venue in the north.
Oh.
Shall I tell you what it is? You can have the world exclusive because it hasn't even been announced yet.
I tell you what, tell us just now, and then I'll bleep it out.
Please do. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when this goes out, we'll go.
All right. So on the 20th of November, we are doing a gig at the Golden Lion in Todmorden.
No way.
Yeah, man.
In Toddy? In Todd?
That is a belter.
So why don't you guys? Where are you, Chris? Are you actually in Scotland, Chris? Are you?
No, I'm in Prestwich. I'm in North Manchester. I'm about 15 minutes down the road from Alex.
Well, why don't you two both come up, and I'll sort out the guest list, and we'll have a party.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible.
Alex, can we get the train? I don't want any of this designated driver.
Yeah, no, I can't drive to that.
No.
Get a hotel room or a room. Stay over.
We could get bunk beds. Alex.
Listener, we're back, and Chris and I are planning our night away to go and see that. When this goes out in a few weeks' time, if we're allowed to tell you, then maybe we won't have bleeped that last bit. And if we have, tough. You'll have to watch this space. But let me tell you, it's going to be absolutely. That's going to be. I'm so excited.
Get in.
So excited. That's going to be absolutely brilliant. Oh, we've come to the end, James. We've been into you for far too long. You've got, things to do. You've got PAs to set up in fields outside farmers' houses, haven't you?
So we have a page for every guest, and we have an episode page on our website, and we put loads of videos and tracks, and we put a playlist on there as well. I have to say that some of the stuff that you've been putting out, the stuff that you've just put out, and last year as well, blinding. And just speaking to you just now, I am hearing these influences as well. I heard a bit of Depeche Mode in there, a bit of later Depeche Mode.
You didn't mention Depeche Mode, did we?
No, but it popped into my head when we were talking about the gothy phase. But yeah, there's a bit of Depeche Mode, a little bit of Underworld in there as well. Yeah, it's great. So we're going to put some stuff to James's latest stuff as James Atkin, and also EMF belters. But we like our guests to suggest a favorite live album or a live track, or maybe it's a video of a band or artist playing live on YouTube or whatever. So just wondering what would be your go-to live track or album?
It was a big album that I really loved when I was younger, and it's kind of a bit of a dirty word now, but I loved Under a Blood Red Sky by U2. I thought that was an amazing live album. That was when they're at the, what was it called? Red Rocks, wasn't it? I think.
Rocks.
Yeah, that's a great album, that is.
Okay, James, I think you and I were made for each other because again, I've said that the whole U2 dirty word.
Yeah.
That's what happens with life, when someone lives for 40, 50 years. I will always stand by U2 being one of the most incredible bands that ever lived. Yeah, people go on journeys and become this and that, but you are, and it is predictable to say the early stuff, but I think Achtung Baby is maybe their best. But I'm so glad I've got Under Blood Red Sky on vinyl. Still got it on vinyl.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Isn't it? For my sister. I think she listens to this. I haven't got it, Helen. I have not got it.
We'll bleep that out as well. We'll bleep it out as well.
Oh, I'm so chuffed you chose that, because that is really nostalgic for me as well. It's a great album, isn't it?
Yeah, I might go and put it back on now, actually. It's just popped into my head. I probably haven't heard it for quite a few years, but... It's
a good show. Good show.
Yeah. I had the video as well. Watching that. There was something about them, wasn't there? There was something about them. Oh, man. James, this has been so enjoyable. I've loved it.
Lovely, hasn't it?
Yeah, thank you so much. And like I say, your new stuff is really cracking, really lovely.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I shall see you guys, if not before, on the 20th of November.
Listeners, we'll be there, so get yourself there. It is going to be great. James, star, thank you so much. And love to your wife.
Thank you.
Tell her from me, keep on at you with all the new stuff. I like that.
Yeah. Sounds like she's keeping you on track.
Exactly.
Yeah, she educates me, which is good.
Keep those new artists coming. And I'll see you Friday night at yours. Get the PA ready.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Alex. See you later. Bye.
And there we go. James Atkin from EMF.
Oh,
Mofos.
That was lovely.
That was lovely. Honestly, you can see now what I meant in the intro beforehand when I said he's so charming. What a genuinely beautiful human being.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to say that the gig that he was mentioning before is going to be in... we still can't tell you.
No, we can't.
We can't. Oh.
TBC, to be confirmed. TBA, to be announced. TBGT?
To be gone to?
To be gone to, exactly. TBTF, to be bought tickets for. And all that. It's going to be in a small venue up north.
Really small.
And genuinely, I think he's going to blow the roof off. It's going to be a hell of a night, and Chris and I will absolutely be there. So keep a close look. Yeah.
We're going to go and we're going to represent.
Oh, yeah. Who are we representing?
Ourselves.
The Celtic nations.
The Celtic nations, yeah.
And so go and find James on social media. And you can find all his merch, you can find all his solo stuff, his music.
Oh, there's new merch as well.
Oh, yeah, get your hands on some new merch.
New merch. Some of the t-shirts, the colours are great. So it's not just your white or your black. It's orange and green, and I'm just naming colours now.
You're naming colours. I like it. I like it. I mean, you have sold that merch.
You
have sold that merch.
I know loads of colours.
There's one thing I've always said about you, Chris, and that's you should stick to photography and not sales.
Yeah. Which one's Chris again?
Yeah.
The one who knows all the colours. Yeah,
Oh,
that's Chris.
he's
Yeah.
my favourite. But anyway, go and search James on social media. He's a beautiful man, and get some merch, music, and gig news very soon.
And his new stuff as well. Have a listen to his new stuff.
Yeah, no, it's
not
really
just
good.
The EMF stuff. It's really cracking. Really
It's true.
great.
So thank you, James, and we look forward to seeing you at the aforementioned gig. Now, we are a tad giggly and giddy, and it might be noisy as well because we're in a car. We've just come out of the Shed 7 gig at the Peace Hall in Halifax, and it was an absolute belter, wasn't it?
It was a cracker. Really good.
Considering it was our first gig together after the past year and a half. I think that wasn't a bad gig to get to. Hey, do you know what I
No,
mean?
absolutely. We only fell out a couple of times.
Oh yeah, it's true. And you only fell over 4 times.
Well, you fell over 5 times and you weren't even drinking.
Yeah, that's the worry. There were some dad dancing moves on display, and I'm proud of it. I'm not even embarrassed.
And they were all yours.
They were all mine, very possibly. Do you know what? It's just so good to be back at live music. And the support band, Skylights, Wedding Present, the Pigeon Detectives, everyone just had a great time, and it's just so nice to be back out. And that was so good that maybe all gigs should finish forever, and that is it, the end.
That's the last gig ever.
That is the last gig ever. I've just got to give shout outs to Rick and manager for sorting this evening, and it was great to see Chrissy Boy here getting his long lens out. Hey, Lenzy! And
No, I got some good shots actually. Far be it from me to say I got some good shots, but
you just did.
I just did. Yeah,
just
I got
did.
some good shots. Pigeon Detectives as well. The front man.
He's a hell of a performer, isn't he?
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
enjoyed himself tonight, didn't
There's
he?
there's a bit of Robert Plant in that, and
Are you just thinking of people with curly hair?
No, just yeah.
Did he have a touch of the Mark Bolans about him as well?
He had a touch of the Barbara Dixons about him.
What about the Brian Mays
Yep,
and the Anita Dobsons?
they're the same people. That's the same person.
He's got a touch of the Dobsons. and by the smell of it, I think you've got a touch of the Dobsons as well.
Somebody find a cushion for him. He's got a touch of the Dobsons.
So, yeah, an amazing gig. And Shed 7, they're always so good. They are always so good. And I think it's why they're able to go on such big tours, play to so many people, because their set list from the off is just incredible.
Yeah.
Including their new... as actually, Rick said tonight, we need to stop calling it the new album because it was 2017.
Yeah,
but it's
4 years ago.
Yeah, but it is a brilliant album, and even playing some of those new tracks, it's the set. Well, actually, I think that album is possibly their best.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
And Duke coming on stage.
Bringing his son on, Duke from Seratones, and they're playing at Night and Day Cafe in November in Manchester, and other dates around the country, so look out for them. But that must be lovely to be able to bring your son on and join you for a song.
Absolutely.
And Chris got lovely photos of that, and maybe when Chris has edited a few shots from the gig today, we'll pop them on our socials. So yeah, we are very excited to be out and about in a gig, and fingers crossed we're going to be at some more live gigs very, very soon, and we will keep you updated. Tell us about your live gigs back, your first live gigs back out there. Send us pictures, send us videos, tell us about who you're seeing, where you're going, which venues. You know the podcast now. You know what we want to hear. So tell us all, and you can find us as always on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Gig Stories Pod, and of course you can email us. Now here is the big test listener. He's had a few pints. Can he remember the email address? Christopher?
info@gigstoriespodcast.com.
Oh, he is absolutely on it.
Absolutely. And the other thing I was going to say was, if you have any suggestions of people that we should seek out to interview as guests, then that would be more than welcome. Because we're kind of winging it, really, aren't we?
We are just contacting anyone and everyone we can. You know, people. This isn't just. I think people think that we're just contacting people we know. Well, we certainly don't know all our guests. We're very lucky that we have so many. We're just contacting them and hoping that they have time in their no doubt busy schedules. So let us know who you'd like us to get in touch with. And if you know people that you think would be great on the podcast, let us know too, and we'll try our best to get them on.
We should get Barbara Dixon on.
And Anita Dobson.
Yeah.
They got it.
And Brian May.
And Brian. Can you imagine that if we had Anita Dobson and Brian May? That would be amazing. Anyone can fall in love.
Oh my God, we should get Nick Berry on as well.
Nick Berry.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could sing his hit single, but I can't.
Every loser wins.
Every loser wins.
Oh God, there's enough. No, we need to pull the plug now. We need to pull the plug. Alex.
Bye. See you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Every loser wins.